Welcome to the Living Ageless and Bold podcast. Each episode, I bring you amazing women who inspire, educate, and share their experiences and journeys along the way. So grab a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's relax and have some fun hearing what can be accomplished after 55. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Living Ageless and Bold. I just get to meet such cool women. I'm really excited about today. Morgan Roth is my guest, and she's been career marketing communications. For the last 20 years, she's worked for nonprofits. Most recently, she is the Chief Marketing Officer of the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And I want to talk a lot about that because that's quite a path to take working with nonprofits. So Morgan, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And I have to say, we were introduced by a mutual friend, and I texted her last night because I said, oh my God, there's no way she's over 50. I think we got the demographic. Sent me an Instagram post of your 60th birthday that you went to Italy with your daughter. So whatever you're doing, we all need to learn your beauty routine because you look fabulous.
Appreciate that. I think that's just a good genes thing, courtesy of my mom.
Oh my goodness. Well, I always like to, you didn't wake up as the CMO of MDA. There's a process that gets you to that. So what was your, when you went to college, like what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, curiously, I wanted to be the first Major League Hockey female play-by-play announcer. That was plan A.
Okay, well, wait, stop, hold on. Because you don't know this about me. I am a hockey mom. My son played hockey since he was, from 3 to 4, he's like, when can I play that? When can I play that? When can I play that? And then a neighbor brought over equipment. And then he's like, why can't I wear the skates around the house? Why can't I sleep in the skates? So from 4 until he went away to college, that was our life. So how cool so are you from Canada?
I am not, but I went to school at McGill in Montreal and, grew up here in the tri-state region. I grew up in New Jersey, grew up with the Rangers and just loved hockey. And I always knew my calling was going to be about storytelling. And, I've always enjoyed the person that got the news and brought it to you. And, so I was always going down that path. And, eventually I pivoted away from sports and into broadcast news. And that was really where I got my foothold in telling stories. But after a while, the opportunity presented to flip to the other side of the microphone and go into PR and strategic communications. One thing led to another. And I found myself in a nonprofit that changed how I thought about work. And reward, because when you are in the nonprofit sector or in the greater good sector, you have the privilege of being able to look over your shoulder and you recall your career and your victories in terms of people, and you remember their faces and their names. And that was super meaningful to me. And I love the ebbs and flows of the nonprofit world. And I did experiment. I took a foray into the for-profit world, and it wasn't for me. I found my home. I know where I belong. And, it's clearly in this sector.
Was your first nonprofit that gave you that aha moment?
It was an organization called Recording for the Blind and Dyslexic. It was an organization created primarily to help blinded veterans after World War II access their rights to a college education under the GI Bill. So there were volunteers from all over New York City who would gather in the attic of the New York Public Library and record textbooks, college textbooks, on what was then reel-to-reel tape for these former combat soldiers to listen and learn through listening. And over time, the organization grew. They welcomed in the dyslexia community because they found value in learning through listening. And so it was an organization where the other great advantage to me was my boss at the time literally wrote the book on work-life family balance. And this was long before the days of working at home. If you had a sick kid, you took a sick day like everybody else. But she made it easy for me to work from home, and this was in the early 1990s. And she understood things like kids get sick on the day of your board presentation. And
can I just say one thing that you said? She. That's, and I do not male bash. I love men. I have a son. I'm married a very long time. But in business, and Simon Sinek said that. He said in one of his talks that I was at, he said that all corporations should be run by women because they're more empathetic and they understand something like that. And you and I both know, as women and multitasking, you can be home with a sick child and still get your job done, even though you're not in the office.
That's exactly right. And she just made it okay to do that. She just kind of peeled back some of those systemic impediments to women who can do both. There's plenty of downtime and nap time when you have a sick child where you can be, on the phone or typing something out. So she made it easy. She made it the norm. And it made my life there very, very happy because I felt like everybody was getting what they needed from me. So that set a very high bar for my job opportunities going forward. But I think that was the first time where I really understood how important it is to know your worth and know what your needs are so you can ask for them and advocate for yourself when you're interviewing for a job or when you're established and you need different boundaries or you have to give yourself different permission to meet specific needs to make it work.
How long were you with that organization?
9 lovely years. 9 years.
I was thinking what you just said. You guys kind of started books on tape before it was a thing.
Oh, sure. And, now it's digital and the organization has changed a little bit. It's now called Learning Ally, but it provides an incredible service for students who tend to get warehoused and not really evaluated for their own intellectual curiosity and capacity. And they can learn. They just need an alternate path to printed material.
So you had this amazing job. Why did you leave?
Well, as it happens, as it takes a village, I lost some of my village. My mother was, absolutely my number one supporter and babysitter for when I traveled. And at the time I was divorced and I shared custody with my ex-husband. And I lost both my mother and my ex-husband at the same time. And it really condensed my world. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. But I was so blessed and that, I explained my situation to my new boss at the time, who after Barbara left the organization, I was explaining to him and he agreed to bring me on as a consultant so I could continue the job that I loved, but in an external capacity. So things changed, but it gave me the opportunity to work at home and, to be there when my daughter got home from school. It was a difficult time for us. And I felt she was also maybe 12 at the time. And, that's when, things can start going off the rails and kids start making choices. So I wanted to make sure that I could remain present and, make sure that I had capacity to mother the way my daughter needed to be mothered in those years.
Well, sounds like she's very lucky to have you as a mom.
Thanks.
Yes. And it sounds like the new boss learned a lot from the old boss.
100%, down to the point where when I did have to travel, my mother could come with me so we could bring my daughter. And he was just very, very sensitive to my needs and my preferences and what empowered me and enabled me to do my job really, really well. When I knew this part of my life was well taken care of and I could put my finger on it anytime I wanted to. But at the same time, excuse me, sorry, at the same time, be at peace and be able to do my job.
Well, and I went through your LinkedIn profile, and the one theme I saw from people who had, did recommendations is is in regular fashion, she just Morganed it. Like that's like, you have such a reputation. What is that? What is, everybody just raves about, working with you.
Well, when I started my career in strategic communications and public relations, our profession was kind of turning a corner. And it became less about what was sensational and more about what was relatable. And I just had a talent for working on content and strategies to engage people using narratives that were relatable. And it was work I loved to do. And I just kind of got that reputation for helping create brands that are approachable and accessible in the nonprofit world. And sorry, I'm choking, not crying. And again, I think, when you find something you're good at and you love it, it's just the best thing in the world to do. So I feel really super grateful that I was allowed to find this path and this track, and that I had people, in my family and in my working life who really helped me succeed and didn't throw a lot of impediments and barriers in my way just to, see me dance. People have been kind and generous, and real leadership. There's something I definitely benefited from.
And you've worked all over the world, correct? So let's talk a little bit about what took you overseas.
I always felt it was important, especially when my daughter was growing up, that she think of herself as a global citizen. She was, I want to say 8 or 9 when 9/11 happened. And that was a real turning point for all of us, I think. And, I wanted her to understand how complicated the world was, but that it was our responsibility, to encourage and participate in peace and in navigating different cultures that are not our own, and be able to have some fluency in those cultures. And very long story short, she had decided that she wanted to take a gap year before going to university. And she had a very close friend and neighbors of ours who were Egyptians, and she was fascinated by Egyptian and Arab culture and decided she would like to do her gap year there. There was a great State Department program where she would learn the language and live with the host family. And I thought that was terrific, and I fully supported it. But sending your child to the Middle East is very different than sending your child to London for study abroad.
And a daughter. I had a job opportunity where they wanted me to come to Saudi Arabia, and I'm a Western woman. I was joking with my friends. I'd probably be in jail before I even got to the hotel, not doing things on purpose, but just not knowing the customs and the norms and the status of women. So completely agree with that. That's a big, I would be very nervous if my daughter said she wanted to go alone to the Middle East.
Yeah, and because we don't have a network there, and it is a culture that is much more foreign to many Americans to have to navigate, and young women. And as luck would have it, at the time I was consulting, and I came across a job opportunity at the American University in Cairo, and I thought, this is great because this will keep me at a distance, but I would still be plugged into that life and that culture. And it really turned into a beautiful opportunity for both of us. She ended up not going to Egypt, but she did have the opportunity when I was working at AUC to take courses there. And so we spent our summers over there. We commuted essentially back and forth while she was in high school. So it was a great learning opportunity for her. Later, I moved there permanently. I took a job in Beirut, and I lived in Beirut, and it was a wonderful time. It really was a great time of learning and exploration. And I felt it was important for her to see, what happens when you come from a place of yes, the opportunity presented. And it was just kind of, hey, why not? I know the trajectory my life will take if I stay in this home and here in New Jersey. I know exactly how my life will finish out. But if I take a leap like this every once in a while, it really mixes things up. And just more doors and opportunities opened from there.
So you spent 3 years in Beirut, and then did you come back or did you keep exploring?
I came back. I was ready to come back. My contract had ended, and I had a great job lined up to come back to the United States and settle in Washington, D.C., where I live now. And an old colleague from mine from Cairo said, "You're not going to be happy. Like once you've kind of lived that expat life, it's hard to transition back." And I said, no, I'm ready. Well, she was right. So I was back about a year, and I got that little familiar itch. And then I was off to Rwanda for a year, working with a USAID contractor on a literacy project in Kigali. And again,
so your career, just listening to all these things, we talk about, you work, the grind, the this and that, but how fulfilling has your career been? I mean, just, you did this for veterans and, you're just going all over the world helping people. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's been my privilege. It really has. To see parts of the world that a lot of Americans don't have access to. You learn a lot about your own country when you're abroad. So I had that great privilege also. And, now I did get to the point where it was time to come home. It was time to keep the home fires burning here. And now my daughter's overseas. She lives in Dubai. So,
oh, wow.
So I'm pleased for her that she's taken that trajectory, and she is a global nomad and, living her best life without kind of the constraints that, I had to a certain degree. She does not have a connection to things, or
right.
She's ready to go. She's mobile and agile like that.
Yeah, which is whether you're working or I'm first generation American. So my family was from Germany. So we would go back every year, but that was part of our culture and what I knew. And, I've gone to a few places in Europe, but last year we took a trip with our son. We went to Africa, and and I've talked about it before on the podcast, but that trip changed my life because you see people and you meet people and tribes. There was a young man who was a tribesman and my son, and they were almost the same age. And I'm thinking, here's my son who works on Wall Street in New York. And here's Isaac who, they have no power. He's trying to convince me how good drinking cow's milk and blood mixed together was. He said, it's nutritious and delicious. I said, I will give you nutritious. I will not give you delicious. But I could have talked to these people for days and weeks and months and wanted to experience, what's it like to live where you live. And so anybody listening, if you have opportunities, and it sounds like you really opened some doors for your daughter to allow her the freedom to see the world, I just think it makes you a better person. You're not in this, I said, the 9-to-5 grind, the tunnel vision. I'm going to raise my kids and they're going to go to college and they're going to get married and have kids. The American way of life. And it's just when you have the opportunity to experience other places and other people, it's quite incredible.
It sure is. It's addictive.
So you came back again though.
But yeah, I'm home now. Okay. Love working for MDA. I feel like I'm making a difference there. I live with a neuromuscular disease, so that's really my community. But it's, kind of, again, I keep using that word privilege, but, I have the privilege now of being able to manage the trajectory of this really iconic American brand.
Well, you think, and the people listening and watching, I mean, we grew up with the Jerry Lewis Telethon. I mean, and we were glued. Like, that's what we did, is we watched that. That's, like you said, an iconic brand that I feel as though, at least in my generation, was that. We all knew about muscular dystrophy.
Yeah. And the benefits that have come forward thanks to the years and years of that telethon are incredible. We have, at the lowest level, we now have names and diagnoses for diseases that nobody knew existed, back when the telethon started. But we're also seeing really effective, wonderfully advanced treatments starting to come through the pipeline for the over 300 neuromuscular diseases that are in our portfolio at MDA. So it is an incredible time, to be here to watch this. And we're about to celebrate our 75th anniversary next year. And again, to look over your shoulder, see the road that has been laid, and, the people and the cures and the treatments that are starting to generate, and the way we're doing science now is fascinating, just so fascinating.
So what is a day in the life for you? What is it? You like to tell the story. Is it, how do you, like I said, going through your LinkedIn, obviously you're very good at what you do. You're very successful at growing revenues, getting more people aware of the nonprofits that you work for. So what do you do to help with MDA?
Really, what we do is we amplify. I'm not in a position where I represent the community so much as I help the community project its voice where it needs to be projected. So, if that's advocacy, if it's in the science realm, to, advance more funding for treatments and clinical trials, policy, and community building. So my job is really working with a lot of very smart colleagues, on these different areas of business, and helping connect our community. And, in working in concentric circles, who is around that child with a muscular dystrophy or with spinal muscular atrophy? Let's connect the child, but then let's connect his or her parents as caregivers, and their physicians, and the greater science community, and the general public. So it's really helping different segments of our society understand, align themselves, with the power of what can be done, and then engage them in ways of supporting us or aligning with us or joining us in our work.
And it's, as technology increases, I feel very lucky, compared to, like we said, you had the telethon, back in the 70s, that was it. But now with social media and the internet and the ability to make these connections and have support groups. And we recently lost my brother-in-law to a glioblastoma, which is a very small community. And there's not a lot of funding because it's a small community. Like, you learn a lot, and you learn a lot about clinical trials. I actually interviewed someone for the podcast who helps people get into clinical trials for cancer treatment. And she lost her brother-in-law to cancer. But you don't realize, and I love when you said that, because I learned so much about it with helping Jeremy, who got a trial and lived 2 years longer than he was supposed to. So that's a big part of getting that message out in the medical community of things that are available.
Sure. And making sure that there's always room at the table for the patients to, talk about what their needs are and their expectations.
So do you have anything like the telethon?
We started doing in the last couple of years, we call them tribute tours, but it's really an opportunity for us to go around the country and really see those roots of community. We work a lot with the International Association of Firefighters. They're one of our longest serving supporting organizations. 70 years they've been supporting MDA. And they are amazing fundraisers through their Fill the Boot.
I was just going to ask you that, because we do visiting friends and different, when you're traveling, you see the Fill the Boot, and I didn't realize that was muscular dystrophy.
Yeah. And they have, from firehouse to firehouse around the country, they really have a genuine and authentic affinity for those children in their community and the adults that they serve. And so we always like to put them together whenever we can. And some of our other sponsors as well. It's, we really function as a community where our sponsors and supporters are very interactive certainly with our patient community, but also with the scientific community. So, that's a lot of my job too, is helping to connect those dots, and making sure that above all, we are projecting, to people with these rare neuromuscular diseases, you are not alone. And there is no impediment we can't help you get over. And we'll find those resources.
So somebody's listening, maybe they've been impacted or just very moved. How can they help? Where do they go?
Find us on mda.org. I'm really excited. In September, we're going to start our annual 30 Days of Strength campaign. It's Muscular Dystrophy Awareness Month, but it's also Awareness Month for a lot of other neuromuscular diseases. So we take the opportunity in September to showcase everything people are doing with these diseases and how far we've come in bringing treatments to market and helping people live longer, stronger, more independent lives.
I love that. And what is a neuromuscular disorder?
They tend to be neurodegenerative. So something shuts down between the brain and the muscle or the nerves. They're just not communicating anymore. So when muscle is not used, it atrophies, and when it atrophies, right now, you can't get it back. So we are working right now on the kinds of drugs and treatments that will slow progression of these diseases. So at least we're buying time before that individual loses muscle. We're buying time for other treatments to come to market or other opportunities and advancements in care. We're also looking now at the possibility of being able to regenerate muscle and nerves. And that is an enormous leap for science. But we've made other enormous leaps before. When people said it can't be done and, there's nothing at the end of that rainbow, we have found the pot of gold. So we don't let that kind of naysaying stop us.
But you can't. I was at an event recently. I went to Virginia Tech and we did this panel, and there was a gentleman on there who his company, if you have knee replacement surgery, and actually just sold his company to Pfizer, but they put the knee in and whatever they do, the body grows to the knee. Like it makes it like it's really part of the body. So a similar type of, I would think, science is that somehow you could replace the muscle and the body would accept it and grow, and it can't be that far behind if they're doing that.
That's exactly it. And one of our inspirations was, plant-based meats and how those are being modified to be, really to give you that texture and, that texture. I'm getting way over my skis. I'm not a scientist, but that we can recreate meat that plants that behave like meat. We think we can translate some of that into regenerating muscle. Still a very long way off.
Who knew the Impossible Burger could be the answer?
Who knew? But at least we're pursuing that, and there is enough science there that it's not folly. There's something there, and we're going to chase it down.
And I keep saying too, now with AI, when, AI is just amalgamating all the information in the world, that, there could be some scientist in a tribe in Africa that, has put something out on the internet or somehow put it out. And somehow we're going to find these people and we're going to cure cancer and cure all these disorders that we have. It just has to happen. AI is just making us so much smarter.
Sure. And we're learning so much more about the body through tools like AI and its medical equivalents. And science is a different game these days.
Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating. So wow. I see why, like, you have these amazing jobs and careers, and how great to work and be able to see and hear all of this every day.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very stimulating.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I wrap up every episode with the same 2 questions. What is the greatest thing you have accomplished since you turned 50?
Being okay with turning 50 and now 60. I thought that my 40s were kind of my be-all time. And I really underestimated what these years are like with adult children, enough lived experience that I really know myself now. And I know my worth. And that has been a lifetime lesson in the making. So I would say that's my biggest accomplishment, is finally saying,
I'm okay.
This is good. Yeah. This is good.
I heard one of my guests told me that they say your 60s are your best decade.
I can see that. And it came as a surprise, but I'm really okay with it. I feel like I'm in a great place with the knowledge I've acquired and the knowledge I have yet to acquire. There's still always something to look forward to, but you know yourself, and that's such a game changer, I think, for a lot of women.
I agree. And that takes perfect segue to, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Hopefully on a foreign beach somewhere. I would like to be in the south of Spain or maybe Portugal, and chasing after grandchildren. I would be completely okay with that life, and just going back to my little place and making some fish for dinner. I would be okay with that.
It sounds perfect. Maybe we'll be neighbors. I love it. Oh, Morgan Roth, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening or for watching this episode of Living Ageless and Bold. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit subscribe. And if you like the episode, I hope that you will give us a great review. You can also head over to livingagelessandbold.com and sign up for information, inspiration, and exclusive opportunities for us, women over 55. Thanks for listening. And remember, no matter what you do, keep living ageless and bold.